There's a reason that AI went to art first. It's because art is subjective and art can impress you. I think that the internet is why I am doing what I'm doing. I've been doing comedy for all these years and it took this long to get this good at comedy. So now if I want to get into something else, will it take the same amount of time? Will it take, and then you start to look at your life and you're like, well, how many decade and a half long spats do I have to focus on things or get good at things? And now you have responsibilities. And so when I was a kid, I was so fascinated by how adults would get stuck in their ways. And I kind of finally understand it, where it's like you spend your whole life trying to get some sense of the world, and you feel like you finally have that sort of concrete sense, and then someone challenges it in a way that maybe undoes or dismantles a lot of your worldview. And it took this long to get the worldview that you have, and so then there's almost maybe like a sunken cost effect to it, where you're like, no, all this stuff can't be wrong, or I've been wasting my life being wrong. And I think that happens with attitudes, but it also happens with skills. And so while I'm curious about a lot of things, sometimes I'm like, man, am I even gonna get the opportunity to get like really good at this thing? And I think one of the things I've been trying to do to combat that sort of like insecurity or fear or whatever you want to call it is to just accept that if I only get to be hopefully the best at the thing that I care about and just that one thing, that's still a very good life. Yeah. And so if I'm a bit okay at everything else, then I can like live with that.
Well, scientifically, you do have to do something like, I think 1,200 times to master it.
Yeah. And so it's like, how many 1,200s do you have left?
Yeah.
And then
seems daunting.
Yeah.
You famously said the internet was a bad idea. Do you still feel that way?
It depends on the day.
Okay.
I think that the incredible good and connection has come from the internet, but especially as we see more like misinformation, disinformation, and just like, I think that there is a touch of cruelty that's very hard to pull off in person. It's very difficult for people to be as like hateful face to face, eye to eye as they can be online. And I think that on the flip side of that, there's still so much more intention, grace, and impact that like loving on someone in person has. And so I think that trade-off, right? That trade-off of like, you could have so much harm and the good you could have would be even better if it was in person, still leans me a little bit on this idea of like, there's not too much narrative building and cognitive dissonance you can get in person that can't be multiplied online. Like online, you could not only like find an echo chamber, you could feed a narrative that almost no one else in the world believes. Like you could give yourself a specific psychosis online that doesn't exist anywhere else. Whereas I think in person, if you're in a room full of people and you're in denial of something, everyone is aware that you're in that denial. But like, because of even how we've structured the online experience, you rubbing up against with things that challenge or change your worldview it's rare enough that it's becoming harder to do in person. You know, like back in the day, debate used to like mean something.
It means nothing now.
And now it's like debate is everyone is saying the most outrageous thing possible for the click. So then now it's like, not only are there bad actors in debates, there are people who aren't even trying to debate. They're trying to get clipped.
Yeah.
And I think that that's something that just doesn't fly in person. Like if you were going to a debate and you watch two people debate, and then afterwards, one of those people could be overheard being like, oh, I didn't believe any of that. It actually takes away from everything that they said. Whereas online, it's like, as long as it's another clip, as long as it's a different clip where you're saying you don't believe anything from the other clip, it like sort of exonerates you from you.
Yeah.
And I just don't know how you function in a world that should have consequences with ideas like that.
Yeah.
If we had it to do over again, we'd probably make it so that like every 10 computers connected to 10 computers, like probably slow the network down a little bit.
Down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like the internet as it stands is so close to being a better place, even though it's like a hellscape of all the things I listed before. But to me, it's like I would like to give people the experiences that I had when I first got online, which was like I wasn't really talking to my friends. I was making new friends. And I think that the comments and DM and shares are like these real opportunities to connect with people in a way that you wouldn't have without the internet. And so I wish it got used more, you know? And I like to see that in even in the live, like when we go live on YouTube in the premiere and you see people really take care of each other. You know, somebody will post like had a rough day, and people will tag them and like tell them to keep their head up, whatever the thing is, right? And it's like the more of that you can build, the better overall of a place the internet is.
Yeah.
And then maybe I one day won't think it was a bad idea.
Yeah.
If there's enough of that, maybe I'll be like, oh, the internet is pretty
Yeah.
good only.
Yeah. I mean, we have astronauts like posting from space, so it is kind of cool.
No, this is my thing. I once again, I think we are so close.
Yeah.
It's
So close.
it's crazy how close we are.
Yeah.
And then something, obviously like something terrible, at least feels to me like a bit of a setback.
Yeah.
And then we get close again where we're like, oh, this is some cool stuff. This is great. And everybody's having fun. We're having a good time. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
He posted again? All right.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Exactly.
Wow, what a day. Oh, this is great.
Yeah. Just
Yeah.
when it looks like things are turning around.
Yeah. And so I know it's not all linear like
Yeah,
that. And
of
so many
course.
things are happening in parts of the internet. Like, I think it's a blessing that there are parts of the internet.
Yeah.
And then that way, there are people who are like only really having these like very good and healthy and supportive experiences. I just think that like by and large, mainstream wise, a lot of us are caught up in like a pretty rough limbo of like all the cool things the internet offers and all the potential connection with all of the horrors.
If you existed pre-internet, right?
Yeah.
Do you think that you would be as successful?
I wouldn't be delusional enough to say that everything would be happening that's happening without the internet. I'd like to think that as long as I offered up people something of value with what I say and made them laugh in the way that I make them laugh and tell really like engaging stories about my life and stories that I think speak to a wider narrative of how the world works, that I would at least be interesting enough to still garner some form of audience, some form of people coming to a show. Like, would it be the size of the shows now? I don't think so. I think that the internet is why I am doing what I'm doing. Like, the people that find me online are the people that put me in the positions that I'm in. Like, I don't ever take that for granted or disregard that. But I also think that if me having like smaller shows or me doing less than I'm doing now, if the cost of that was less people feeling bad about themselves, less people being like feeling shut out from society or less people in what feels like a negative feedback loop that's just making them more unhappy, it's like, yeah, I think that's a deal that I could live with, Most of the things that people even seek after now existed long before the internet, So, yeah, I think that's a deal that I would take no problem. I don't think that it was a solely bad idea. Like, I was, halfway joking when I said it, but I also meant it in terms of like, we were introduced to this horse and let it run free immediately, and now it's kicked a couple people in the chest.
Yeah.
And we're like, well, I mean, nothing we can do now. And you see them, almost doing a similar thing, if not a more egregious version of it with AI, where it's like industry doesn't want to be caught up to by legislation. And so you see these people who have whole AI systems that can like undress people, that can do all of this incredible evil in the world. And then the good that is supposed to offset it is either not possible yet or not being worked on to the same degree. There's a reason that AI went to art first. It's because art is subjective and art can impress you. Whereas if you have an AI doctor and the AI doctor misdiagnoses you, we have a problem.
Yeah.
And we have only a problem. someone's going to jail. We only have a problem.
Yeah.
But if the AI steals everything that's ever been copyrighted and makes a version of fan fiction into a book that then someone publishes whenever they type into a prompt and then it makes them money, it's like now you've complicated it in a way where it's like, well, was this thing gonna get made by the person who had the other IP already? Like you can muddy it. And in that muddiness, you can get funding. And with that funding, you can gain more leverage and power to then be able to do whatever it is you want. And so it's like me saying, is AI a bad idea? It's like, it doesn't have to be.
Yeah.
You know, already we're finding where, and I don't know everything about this, so like I wouldn't be quotable on it, but apparently there are some screenings and some scans in the medical field where AI eventually will be better than a regular technician or doctor at identifying very small things that could be missable. And it's like that's a place in where AI doesn't even necessarily need to be replacing a job, but it can be a tool to where now when people go in for a screening, they can be even more confident in the results that they get.
Yeah.
When the result comes back and they're like, there's nothing wrong, you know, you don't have to worry if they've missed something. And I think that if that was the place that AI was going from the get-go, I think we would all be in more support of it. But it's like, you scraped the internet and stole from us just to tell us you were going to replace us because we aren't worthy.
Yeah.
And it's like, if we're not worthy, why didn't your AI make everything itself? It didn't make anything. It's making mix and match versions of what we made. And so it sounds like we're still pretty special, you know? That's the world that I think about, like, if the internet existed or if it didn't exist, if AI existed or if it didn't exist. And truth of the matter is we're in the world we're in. Like you know, these sort of hypotheticals are nice to think about, but like dealing with what we have now, I would just hope to be part of the good parts of the internet and to mostly engage with the good parts of the internet. The AI thing is different because data centers and copyright law and all these things are affecting people that didn't sign up for this and don't deserve. Like, internet wise, to a degree, you can kind of bow out in certain things. Like, you look at social and it's like, even if you are an artist, like there's a misconception sometimes that if you are an artist, you have to have social because you have to be using that to put yourself out and everything like that. There's still people that do it the old fashioned way because they came up in a different time. And then there's also people who are like, I think that my contribution to art will not just be the art that I make, but the fact that there's some mystery about me. And I think that thing, because so few people are willing to do that, that becomes its own engaging like lane to be in. And so I think that when it comes to internet, there are some ways that you can take a step back and regulate how affected you are by it. The people who bought property near a data center don't get those choices. You know, the people who are getting all of their water used or poisoned and having their electricity bills going up that may not even use this stuff.
Yeah.
They don't get a choice, you know?
Yeah.
And so I hope that I can be like a good part of the internet, but we'll see. I don't even know the ways in which sometimes I'm like contributing to bad stuff because you don't know until someone tells you. And then you're like, oh, I've been doing that for years.
Yeah.
Like, what if AI runs on gray hoodies? It's like, oh, my bad. Got to
your
switch
whole
to yellow.
identity.